Welcome to New Business in Later Life with me, Ildiko Seeley. I'm an entrepreneur, the routine queen, and the champion of thriving over 50. I'm obsessed with morning routines, energized living, and building businesses that work with your life, not against it. Each week, I share real-life stories from bold later life entrepreneurs who have said no thanks to retirement and hell yes to reinvention, while discussing good health routines for great business. Whether you are launching your first venture or scaling your encore, you are in the right place. Let's get you fired up, focused, and firmly in the driver's seat of your next chapter. Let's dive in. Today's guest is living proof that reinvention isn't just possible, it can be really powerful. A seasoned entrepreneur who built, lost, and launched new businesses, she's now co-founder of a bespoke luxury brand, creating lasting legacies for women. With a life shaped by resilience, heritage, and heart, Anita is also a lecturer, mother, and a proud grandmother, and still blazing trails at 66. So please get ready for wisdom, warmth, and a reminder from Anita that retirement is entirely optional. Hi Anita, thank you very much for coming along today.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's fun. It's Friday afternoon. Wonderful.
Yes, it is. And it's turned into a rather sunny Friday afternoon. It was drizzly grey this morning and it's absolutely beautiful. It was nice to find you on the benches sunbathing while waiting for me to be ready. So, welcome to New Business in Later Life.
Yes.
I'll jump straight in.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please tell us what is your newest business?
My newest business is with my daughter. So we're a mother and daughter business. And we are called Irene and Jenny. And we design bespoke pieces of jewellery from old family gems.
Okay.
So that you can wear your family's heritage, every day. And so we design things that are just one of in the world.
Before we go much further, would you just share with us how old were you when you set up this business, please?
65.
Right now, if you could please tell us a lot more about this business. It sounds really intriguing.
As with other businesses that I've run, I started businesses when no one else was doing what we were doing. So friends would say, why are you doing that? Well, because I think it's going to be great. There's a gap in the market and you have to be brave and you have to be obsessed. And you have to know that you can do it, really. This business, my fourth business, when the Marley had acute postnatal depression, I closed my other business and I took a contract on for a year to help her get better.
Right.
And then after a year, she felt better. And I said, what would you like to do? Because I've run businesses. I'm an old person. And so she said...
You are not old.
I'd like to take my boys to school in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. Because I was only ever a weekend mum. So I said, okay.
I mean, it's something so simple and so profound, isn't it? Just to simply be with your children.
It really is. And of course, in reality, that's 10 till 2. 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. She said, Mum, I'd really like to build your jewellery business with you.
Okay.
And I said,
so by then you kind of started doing this?
No.
Okay.
I used to design jewellery as a side hustle.
Okay.
With my other businesses. And so I said to her, I didn't even know that she liked my stuff. So I was very flattered. So we decided, okay, we're going to start this business. No one does what we do in the world because with every piece of jewellery that I design, Amalia writes a legacy book with the provenance of every single stone and precious metal that I'm using. And also the client will send her pictures, precious moments, times in their lives that were important.
Right.
And what we found was that it's like therapy, really, because no one's ever asked a woman, so tell me about you, because women are fixers, mothers, lovers, daughters, grandparents, washer-uppers, school report.
Cleaners, chefs.
Cleaners, everything. And so no one ever says to them, so how are you? Mm. And what we say is...
Well, not very often, anyhow.
No. So what we say is that as women, our power is in our past.
Okay.
Our past meaning mothers.
I would hope that my power is in the future, but...
Well, everyone's is very concerned about going forward, AI, move, and we're saying stop, pause, because you are who you are because of your mum, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother. Now, Marley did a bit of research. In 12 generations, there will have been 4,000 people that will have made you who you are today.
Oh, my word.
All right. And, if you don't look back at the women and the men in your life before, you would never know if they were pioneers, if they were the first to do anything, or you would never have known of all the wonderful things they may have done, the love stories and things like that.
Yes.
But when we meet clients, we'll get to hear all of their stories, their loves, their sacrifices, things that have been challenging all their lives, their fears, their hopes and dreams. But looking back, your power as a woman is in your past. You've sat on your mother's shoulders, and I think that is really worth doing. So that's why it's unique. And the book with the piece that
Can
we
I just
designed.
ask, how do you drill into the details? Do you sit down with people and talk to them for hours, or do you send them, I don't really want to say questionnaire, but in some way, do you send them a document of some kind where they can write? Is it all in person, whether it's on Zoom or literally sitting down with them?
It's in person, all of it. And there are 20 touch points before meeting a client, and then delivering the final piece.
So
20
if somebody
touch
from
points.
Scotland gets in touch with you, who would travel? Would you and your daughter actually travel to see them?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
First of all, Amalia, when the inquiries come in, Amalia is the person that they speak to first. So she can get a real feel for if they're, what is it they're looking for. And also, perhaps they might be able to show us what they've got. And that might be on Zoom, if it's a long way away. But that's really to get a feel for that person and whether they trust us to do this, because we are the keeper of the memories and secrets
that they share with you.
Yep. And it stays within our little group, because the pieces that we design will be made up of those things, but there'll be secrets, But every piece we design for a woman particularly gives her confidence. The confidence to say, I'm worth it. The confidence to say, I've lived. The confidence to say, I sacrificed. The confidence to say, I fell in love. The confidence to say, I climbed a mountain. So it's about that.
Sounds incredibly empowering, not
It's
just for
huge.
your customer, but for you and your daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the energy just lifts you all in the process.
Completely. So what I try and do is I meet a client, Marley and I both meet a client, and we just get a feel for, her. I would go to her house.
Can I take you back a step?
Go on,
How
go
do
ahead.
people find you?
They find us through recommendation, or they might find us through some videos Amalia has put together. And we've just started to put in sort of a newsletter together that she sends out.
I imagine, but that would go out to your existing customers?
Existing customers.
But then they can, of course, be reminded of what's going
Oh,
on.
yes, always.
The relationship you have already had with them, and they can recommend.
Because the newsletter isn't all about selling jewellery.
No.
It's we might cite the big romances of the 20s. We might cite, the women that were in innovation over the years.
Snippets of those personal
those
stories
people
that you've come across.
That people don't know about.
It's the emotional connection.
How amazing, how amazing these women were. And then the people we talk to, they say, oh, never knew that. Blimey, that was wonderful. If we take, for example, queens of Britain over the last, 800 years, you might have Mary Queen of Scots, you might have Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth II, then you might have
Queen Victoria,
Mary, and each of those will have a different persona, and they will have held their position in their particular way. And some of them will have come to the throne very young,
yes,
but their stories are incredible, and their history. What we're saying to our clients is, tell us your history, tell us. And so what I do is I meet them. It could be a hotel, it could be anywhere really. And then I ask to come and visit them at home, because when they're at home, I can really see the stuff they like, because your home is you. And then once I've done that, I try and create 3 different personality profiles, because you can't put everything into one piece. So, for example, it might be a really tough cookie. It may be someone that's, a wonderful lawyer at the top of her game, where she is having to juggle things, be the best. So on the outside, she might be seen to be quite spiky or hard, because she has to win her cases.
Yes.
But underneath, she might be soft. And well, she will be, and has sense of humour, but they're the bits people don't see.
Yeah, I have that problem. People always think that I'm quite tough because I'm quite outgoing and outspoken and all that, but I'm incredibly sensitive. And it's my closest family who really don't realize that.
Exactly.
And occasionally it comes out in conversation. And they do actually say, like, I didn't realize you were so sensitive. So I know exactly what you mean, the kind of things you come across with your clients.
When we present the ideas to our clients, they are completely overwhelmed.
When you say ideas, like,
I
what are
present
you
3
actually
ideas,
going-
ideas of
yeah,
the jewellery,
right.
make a presentation to them, and I've actually personified them in 3 different ways.
Okay.
They feel absolutely overwhelmed. And I remember one client said to me, I said, how do you feel about that particular design that you chose? She said, I felt a rush. Because we'd captured everything. She felt a rush. And I thought, yeah, that's cool. I like
You
that.
settle for that.
Yeah. And then when we take the final piece to clients, they always cry.
Oh, I can imagine.
Always cry because
I mean, they literally poured their heart and soul into the story, which then you took and turned into something completely unique and personal.
And then it's joyful,
Oh.
and they will wear the piece, whether it's a necklace, a brooch, a ring, a bracelet, doesn't really matter what it is, but they can wear it, with confidence and knowing that, and also, I guess, how I feel is, I see you.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. Because you could spend a lot of money on a piece of fine jewellery, shopping at Garrard's, and then go to the grocery store. Doesn't work that way with us. It's all about seeing that woman, empowering that woman, or man. I've made pieces for men as well. But similarly,
up to now, we just mentioned
women, but men
clients
as well. But, I think the thing about women is that women never, ever do things themselves. And it's an investment in them, their lives.
I beg to differ on that one.
And they also, most of them, feel guilty about spending such a lot of money on themselves.
Funny you mentioned money. 2 things have been going through my mind while we are talking. One, what pieces of jewellery, or actually, I'm not entirely sure if I understand it right, perhaps. Do you take some old piece of jewellery and turn it into something new, or do you create something completely new? So there's always an old piece. So
it's
I'm thinking back
sustainable.
to what my mother left me. She
Yes.
died about 15 years ago.
Yes.
What did she leave me that I could
That means
submit to this
something. Yes.
project? And the other thing
Yeah.
is, like, if you make so many bits of contact and you go and visit somebody twice at least, then of course there's an awful lot of time that's involved from you and your daughter to do it. So that alone, even if we just, never mind the value, but even if you just apply an hourly rate to the amount of time you
We'd
put
never do
into
that.
it.
It's such
I
a
know,
joy.
I know.
And it's a pleasure.
But
So,
still,
you know.
I can imagine that the overall cost is really quite substantial.
It is, because it's a luxury item.
Yeah.
So, for example, this is my mother's. When my mother passed away, I designed 2 rings.
Right.
One for my sister, which has all of her diamonds and rubies and things. And these are all the other things and it was based, I was inspired by the anemone. And they're all very large pieces. So they've got pearls and jade and tiger's eye, which is wonderful. And my mother was Chinese. So in those days, you had an English name and a Chinese name.
Okay.
So I've engraved both of those names on this ring.
Yes.
So I wear this every day. This is my mum. And it's a piece of
wonderful.
art. And there's only one in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
There's only one in the world. So that's...
Did you train as a jeweller?
No, I did jewellery when I was on foundation at art school. And then I didn't think I could earn a living as a jeweller. And then I did cabinet making. And then I went into graphic design, and I ran a international boutique design agency for 25 years.
Awesome.
And then I lost it in the crash of 2008. I thought I was going to die.
Sad.
It was terrible because I was the main breadwinner. We have 4 children. My husband, we did a role reverse. My husband looked after the children.
Right.
But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to think, right, what next?
Yeah, absolutely.
What next? But 2 things happened to me. A friend of mine said to me, do you fancy coming to Uganda for the weekend? Right. And I said, well, I haven't got anything else to do because I've just lost my business. So I went to Uganda for the weekend, Entebbe on a Friday, and there were 8 of us running businesses in Kent, and we went to see orphanages, the killing fields. We went to see borehole wells being drilled. And then we sat on the bus, and I said to everyone on the bus, we could say that was great, or we could all do something. And all of us, all 8 of us, did something. So
was it a trip specifically to see these deprived
Yeah, because
places?
we went with the charity.
Right,
Went with
right,
the
yeah.
charity. And if you're having a really bad, shitty day, when you do something like that, you know they're having a shittier day than you, because and for them it might be rape, it might be killed, it might be a disease from bad water, it could be, you know, you've lost your parents, it could be anything, and that makes you, it puts life into perspective. And I think that's really, really important. And when I mentor students and I mentor other people, one of the things we do is I say to them is, right, you have to volunteer with something. That's part of the training. Go and volunteer, because that really puts things into perspective, because you don't get paid for it. It's like you're doing something because you can make a difference. And that helped me get over that.
It was in Napoleon Hill's book that he suggests that when you receive your income, at that point, spend 10% on savings, 10% on your self-education, and 10% on giving. And then in one of Jim Rohn's seminars, he kind of digs a little deeper into it and says it doesn't have to be money, the 10%. If you have more time, give 10% of your time. But what he teaches people is start it young. Take your children to a hospital ward where other children are suffering. And when you give them 10 pence or whatever, I think it's cents pocket money, then get 1 cent into a savings account. When they've got little, it's easier to get into a habit, but start early. So yeah, it's something. It's not something that we learn at a young age to give in a charitable way or in a volunteer kind of way. But it's something that could be.
My muse is Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
And she says God gave us 2 hands. One is to help ourselves, and one to help others.
Somebody else.
And I've trekked around the world for charity.
Okay.
So and I started an initiative called My 10 Days to encourage owners of small businesses to give one member of staff 10 extra days paid leave to go and do something wonderful, or 2-5, or 10-1. Every other year I would do a My 10 Days. And when I set up my second business, because of my experience in Uganda, I encouraged, and again, we were the first business to support family businesses here in the UK. And there are over 50 million of them. 5 million of them.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so part of our giving was, if I had a conference, we ran our own conferences and events and awards, I'd say, is there anyone out there would like to build a borehole well in Uganda? And we built 35 between the whole community. That means fresh water to between 200 and 2,000 people in a community. So that's
each well supports 200 to 2,000 people
in one community.
And how many did you say you built?
35.
That's amazing.
35. And we did one.
Amazing.
So I came back from Uganda when I had this thing and I'd lost my business. And I just said to my family, we're going to trek the Sahara Desert. We're going to raise money to build a borehole well. So we went. So 2 of my daughters, my son-in-law, some friends. I have someone that curates fantastic trips for me. And we did 150K in the Sahara Desert. And we raised money for a family borehole well for my family, our parish, and our church. And then since then, borehole wells have the name of the business, and they also has the name of the village.
Yes.
And then there's a plaque, and it says, My 10 Days, family business place, because they're all family businesses, you see.
Yes.
Built this well. And then I think the community, the council, have to look after the well for 25 years, because normally they're sharing their water.
Yeah.
Because they're normally sharing their water with animals.
Okay.
All right. So when we do this, it's all fenced off. So I think in my darkest hour, running my agency, and we were an award-winning agency, in my darkest hour, going there saved me. And then I never looked back. So every 2 years, I have raised money for Great Ormond Street Hospital.
I was going to say, do you still organise trips of this kind, or what? What?
Well,
do you
my
do
latest
nowadays?
one. So at my time of life, and also one of my friends that came on the trip to Uganda, he grew a fantastic business and sold it, and he just wants to do good. So I am a trustee on his foundation called Hats Coffee, named after his daughter Harriet. And so what he started doing was training youngsters that were, had challenging issues to become baristas. So they could go and work in a cafe and go to college, and he has a couple of colleges held in trust for, again, youngsters, and it's got an entrepreneurial feel about it. Anyway, so...
Where did we lose the thread? I do have a couple of questions.
Let me tell you this.
Go on.
He wanted to take 5 baristas out to Uganda. We had to raise money to get them out there.
Yeah.
And in Uganda, there was a college with its very first hospitality part. So I helped him raise money, sent him and 5 these youngsters, and I think he took his son or daughter, and they trained 25 young Ugandans to become baristas. And when he got off the plane, when he came back, he sent me a WhatsApp and said, "Hey, Neats, I've had an epiphany." I said, "What's that?" He said, "We're going to build a coffee village in Uganda."
Do they grow coffee there?
Oh, yeah. It's a big export. But if you spent a £5 on a coffee at Starbucks, the farmer would probably get 20p from that.
If that, yeah.
So we've put together a funding pack to raise money to do a feasibility study. And we're going to build, if we can get that, and I'm hoping we can get generous people to help us with that, or large organisations that are serious about their ESG, serious about CSR, and we will find a very, very poor coffee village, and we will build and add a medical centre, a school, processing. We'll also have training and make it a visitor centre. So when it's one of those top 10 places to visit. Right. And it'll be a cafe.
Would it kind of need to be a village, or will you be able to do this for a region that would serve many plantations, or start small?
We start small.
Well, I tell you what, school, medical centre, visitor centre, that doesn't sound small to me.
It'll be my lifetime's philanthropy.
Oh.
So in answer to your question, I've stopped doing the treks for 10 days, and they're 150k each one I do. So I've stopped doing the treks, and I'm just focusing on this new on the coffee. So that's now. So I think this is, and it's quite extreme because Irene and Jenny is a luxury brand,
right?
All right, and it's it has a luxury price tag to it,
yes,
and it's aimed at people that really value their past, women that want to be seen,
yes,
that I meet, and the other is to help make a difference somewhere else in the world. So that's enough for me at my age. And I've been told I can't think of other ideas. And my daughter gave me a book that says Anita's shiny things before I get distracted on other things. So I'm trying to be a good girl and try and just focus on those two things.
When you decided to set up a luxury brand, is it scary to know that you've got a very niche clientele?
If you're an entrepreneur, you don't get scared, all right? You don't get scared if you're an entrepreneur, because otherwise,
Well, you should, though, shouldn't you?
You don't get scared, really. And don't forget, I've run 3 other businesses before this. So, and I lost one. I started one, I closed one. So I have actually experienced quite a lot of highs and very lows. Yeah. So nothing scares me.
Fair enough.
When we decided to be a luxury business, we decided what's the purpose of it, first of all. The purpose is the most important thing. And also then we had to put that in a frame to be able to earn a living from it.
Yes.
So we put a plan together, and we decided that there are lots of fantastic jewellers in the world. That's not our interest. Our interest is empowering the people that we make pieces for. And I only work with old heirloom jewellery. So I don't know what I'm going to design until I've met the person, seen what they like, found out about their personality, and then I do something quite unique. But that, for me as a creative person, because, I'd start off in magazines and I was an art editor and won awards on design and things. So after running businesses, because you do become removed from the thing that you were excited about when you first started. So for me, it's design.
Yeah, you kind of move on.
Because you're running a business, aren't you? You're leading a team, you become a leader. And then your skills have to be in other ways, to find people better than you, because That's what's needed. And then we decided, so what do we want this to do? What do we want? What's no one doing? And I researched it. We both researched it. No one does what we do in the world. In the world. So no one designs a one-off piece with a legacy book.
That particular combination
Yes,
is
that
your
particular
absolute
absolutely.
unique selling point.
So that's our purple cow. Have you heard of that?
No.
So have you heard of Mr. Beast?
Yes.
He's 26 as a billionaire, okay? He does videos and things like that.
Yes, I have.
And the only
I have
reason,
seen a couple of his videos a while back.
the only reason I know is because I'm a grandmother and it's on telly all the time. And he was being interviewed, and in fact I put a post on LinkedIn, and it was great. He said, you're driving down the road and you see a cow, and you say, it's a cow. Drive.
Until you get to Switzerland, then you find a purple cow.
No, and you're driving a bit further, and you see a purple cow, and you stop the car, and you get out, and you say, what the and then you take a picture of it, then you send it to a friend. So virally, it goes everywhere. So finding your purple cow, right, is
And
what businesses need to do. And the other is, a friend of mine was talking, he was getting into speaking. He said to me, he used this phrase, which I've pinched, be more giraffe. And in
stand out
luxury,
of the crowd.
stand elegantly out of the crowd.
Yes.
Gorgeous designs.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
You can see the landscape.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're graceful. You know, we're not in a hurry. Our business. So in terms of marketing, we do slow marketing.
Okay.
We call it slow marketing.
Is it because it's a word of mouth? But also
Slow marketing because it's thoughtful, it's meaningful, it's not a scattergun approach.
But it can be.
It can't be because that's not
No.
what we do. And so the purple cow, so if not, anyway, I saw that and I thought that's very clever. So I say to people that I mentor, what's your purple cow? But for Amalia and I, for us, it's be more giraffe.
Okay.
And with eyelashes.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. If what you're doing doesn't give you joy and energy, stop. And particularly when you're older, because I started my first business, I was 30.
Okay.
All right. So I've been doing it a long time.
Yes.
And
but also now you are at kind of retirement age.
I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, because you do
word.
something that you absolutely adore and love doing.
And it's about people.
So do you consider it to be work at all?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I have to deliver a piece.
Okay.
And so Amalia will write a story. But for a lady, for example, we're doing something for at the moment, Amalia is writing a poem about her life. So it's totally creative. And it's all about you and no one else. So the pieces that we design can never be done for anyone else. You never see it in a shop because it's just you and it's got your memories, your gems. And sometimes the gems are valuable. Of course they are. Yeah. But sometimes they're not. So these gems here on my ring are not valuable. There's an amethyst and there's amber, but there's a piece of jade, there's a pearl, tiger's eye. But this is my mum.
Obviously nothing outstandingly valuable, but altogether it's completely and utterly priceless.
Yeah. So my mother, when I say your power is in your past, so my mother saw her father executed in a mass grave in China. And the women of the village took the children to the water's edge. They all got on boats, went to Hong Kong. My mother was 11, one of 7 children. She was the eldest. She lived her life in Hong Kong as other refugees did. Met my father. He was in the army. And in those days, in the 50s, if you met someone in the forces, it was your ticket out. You often hear, don't you, in places, sports is my ticket out, very often if you're in a difficult situation. So my mother was a tiger mum. And education came first because education means it's your ticket to a better life than she had. But at the time, she never told me because she wanted to become westernized. She wanted to speak English. I never learnt Chinese. But we ate Chinese food. And that's what we all remember her for. But, a lot of refugees that come over and start businesses here, I'm an ambassador for a women's group called CLAV, and that's Women in Business of Colour. And these women in business of colour, not from South Asia, they're from Ghana, Nigeria, Dominican Republic, Jamaica.
Of African kind of origin.
They're African, but they're of a generation that came on the Windrush.
Right.
And when we had our inaugural dinner, the mothers came. And the mothers were always tough because they had to be.
Yes.
Okay. And this dinner was an opportunity for the founders to stand up and say, Mum, thank you.
Thank you.
And the tears were everywhere.
Yeah.
The tears were everywhere.
I wanted
And my
to
mother
ask-
was very hard. And I think that in those days, it was about surviving. It was about getting there, making the best you could, putting food on the table, so that's my roots.
Did you get the chance to get the story of your mum? Or is she still alive?
No, she passed away because she never told us anything. So
Even at the end, you couldn't. So how
she
did
died.
you...
She died of vascular dementia. So bits and
that's
pieces,
even-
and then other relatives I talked to,
I see. Right.
and then and towards the end, she reverted back to Chinese. Never spoke to her in Chinese, but when you have dementia, it's
Yeah.
it's,
you
and,
go into reverse in a
oh
way.
yes, completely. And of course, everything that was her was inside of her because she had to make a successful life as an army officer's wife,
Yes.
as a mother, of a generation that before the pill came into being. She was in her 50s when she had me,
Oh, wow.
And of course, the pill liberated beyond compare, But that's my mum. And that's why this is so important.
That's
to
quite
me and
interesting that
Amalia.
your own story came from the extended family rather than the person herself. But you are able to
Piece it
give
together.
people a piece of jewellery from their own story.
Their own stories, yes. Their own stories. And sometimes they come with their best friend because it's hard for them to talk
Yeah.
about their life.
Right.
And also,
They need the emotional support of someone
and
they
also
know.
they're very successful, you see, and that softer bit is the bit I'm interested in because I want to know what's under that shell, what's under
Yes.
that spiky person. And of
So-
course, there's all of this lovely stuff.
When you started up the business, did you actually have a way into your clientele?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
knew people who
Yeah.
you knew would...
Yeah. Because when you're in business, the most important thing is networking. Your network is your net worth.
Yes, I've heard it many times since I've
Okay.
been
So-
in business.
So I
for 3
started
years.
I started businesses from scratch, nothing. And you only keep clients or get recommendations if you are trusted, are brilliant at what you do, and the price tag's right. Okay. But when you change into a different type of business, you meet other sorts of people. So I ran a branding agency, which is all about fees. And then all about, well, it is. I mean, the marketing manager said, I love your ideas, Anita, but the budget. Anyway, I did that for 25 years. Loved it. Then I started this business, which was all about creating a family business community. Had no money. And we had our first conference at the Royal Institution in Mayfair. And they came. My speakers were amazing, very famous family business, heads of family businesses.
Okay.
And I couldn't pay them, but they came because they knew that what we were trying to do hadn't been done before. Okay. And so they told their story of their family. They told their story of their grandparents. They told their story of things that were terrible. And the audience was full of family businesses. But I had to get sponsors
Yes.
to
put
be
the
able
event on.
to put the event on. And of course, those sponsors, I'm so grateful for. The sponsors we had, their private clients, 60% of them would have been family run. So
Okay, so obviously the ethos, the values
absolutely.
were matching.
So those
But
people,
you have to...
yeah. And those people that I built relationships up with because we delivered, we
Yes.
had conferences and awards. So with this business now, and I've moved to the West Country,
Yeah.
so I'm in Devon now, and I emigrated 9 months ago from Kent. And of course, now I'm thinking, right, I want to talk to them about what I'm doing now. And they take my calls and they
Yes.
want to help me and Amalia because
they know you.
and we did
they trust
something that
you.
was brilliant. When we started Family Business Place, you would never know who a family business was, all right? You might know JCB, you might know, I don't know, you might know a few really big, well-known names. But by the time we had finished and I closed the business, you couldn't open a newspaper or hear anything on the radio or see anything without it saying a family business. So I think we've done a great job. And I think that if you can leave a legacy, and this is the other thing about jewellery, it's a legacy book. It's a legacy for the next generation.
Yes.
Okay. And that's really, really important. If COVID taught us anything, it taught us that family was important, because the world just changed overnight. We lost loved ones and friends. We had to do things on our own. We had to be we had our little bubbles.
Ever thought we could
face. No. And of course now the world's a different place now. You know, you can work from home, you've got flexible. I mean, some people have to go into work, but other people and I have a friend that's just come all the way from Australia, and he's like huge in IT, and he said, I want to be present for my children as well as run my business. So he is doing flexible because people are thinking new things.
Yes.
And I think when you're older, like
this
like
was
me,
the silver lining in the atrocity of the pandemic, wasn't it? That we started to see the world very differently and realize that things can be done differently.
And also at my age, my friends in business are my age, and they're still doing amazing things.
Yeah.
You know, so the company you keep is what motivates you. The company you keep in your little network is who supports you when you are going through terrible things. The first people to say, fantastic, well done.
Yes.
Because
they're also in business, they understand. They don't just say that you've done well because they had a friend. They say it from their heart because they are business people as well.
And the most important thing, piece of advice I give to all the people that I mentor, is learn to say thank you.
Yes.
And no one says thank you. So we say thank you with postcards, with gifts, with things to say thank you. What you did with us, your business, meant so much to us.
Yes.
And we've always done that. You know, so saying thank you, people don't get thanked. Clients don't get thanked for their business. You know, it's just like, we'll see you next time we need to do so-and-so. Or when you're pitching that again, I hope you'll think of us. But actually,
interesting, yeah.
to say thank you for someone that gave you the time, someone who gave you. And when I started my first agency, I didn't, you know, I was me. And you know, I'm a blend, I'm half Chinese.
Okay.
And I must have been one of half a dozen women in design at the time in London, when there were 11,000 design agencies in London.
Oh, wow.
Right. So
was design a male-orientated business at the time?
At the time, run by men, with a woman maybe number 2. There weren't many women running their own design agencies of more than about 5 people, and I was one of them. I would walk into a room, into a conference, and they would all be men, and there might be half a dozen women. It's changed now, but, you know, it hasn't changed in certain areas of the country.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Which areas are remaining in this?
I don't know if I want to embarrass myself, or I might get death threats. But there are some parts of the country where the old school network still prevails, and I have done my utmost to be the voice to big up women. I mean, I was the first woman to be elected for the Executive Association of Great Britain in 120 years. So that was brilliant.
Congratulations for that.
But
that's quite an
that
achievement.
was awful.
Why?
Oh, in 120 years, the only woman to be the chairman.
Yeah.
You know, so I think whatever we can do for our kids.
But that is a major change, isn't it? So in 120 years, it happened.
It happened, but, you know.
My friends in Plymouth, 2 ladies, they've just started up a Southwest Ladies Investment Club. Because what they found, they've been in property and in business for a few years, that whenever they get to tables, it's full of men.
Absolutely.
So it's like, let's just create our own table and let's empower women.
Yeah. So this business for myself and Amalia is so, we always talk about being authentic.
Yes.
But with my hand on my heart, this is authentic.
You can't get much more authentic than this.
No. When we work with clients, you know, and we share those secrets and we share all their memories and things, their heartache and their sacrifices and their love stories and the things they've done with their lives, I feel it's a privilege. you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a real privilege.
I feel you on that one.
And then when I present the designed things, it's just like they can't believe it that they spent money on themselves to think about themselves only this one time, you know.
It's a really interesting one because I totally associate with that. When I came to England, I was 21. I felt, I suppose, lonely from time to time, but obviously there's that first time. The first time I didn't go home for Christmas.
Yes.
Because I arrived in October, so I couldn't go home for the first Christmas. And then there came the first birthday, the following April. And I bought myself a sort of silver, like this really lovely, shiny, sort of lovely flowing knitted jumper in Next. I remember it very well, and I kept it for a long, long time, probably beyond its kind of best before date. But since then, I always do something for myself for my birthday. And I always have a couple of little presents under the Christmas tree for myself because I am number one. And why shouldn't I treat myself and prioritize myself? Absolutely. And for my upcoming birthday, I actually surprised myself with a photo shoot for a it's a lovely project as well. Fantastic. So it's a kind of give and take in a way. So this photographer is running a 50 over 50 portrait project.
Fantastic.
To have an exhibition at the end of it.
Fantastic.
And I was like, awesome. I'm 50 now. It's the perfect timing for me to do it, and my birthday is coming up. So
fantastic, well done. Because the other thing is that a lot of people will say things like, "Well, women should be more equal," and they might be bashing people over the head. And I just think, you know what? Men can't have kids. End of. And until men can have children, which they can't, there will never be parity. So shut up and just make your life count for something and help. There's a lovely phrase. Every time you stand up and say something as a woman, you are standing up for all women.
Yes.
So, and I think you can always moan or say if, but only, could have, would have, should have. No. Just decide, think it, say it, do it.
Believe it.
Yes.
Then you will think it.
Yeah.
Then you do it.
Yes.
And it changes the cycle.
Happy days. Yeah. And also, when you see women that are successful, you always, other people would say, "You're so successful. You're great.
So lucky.
You're so lucky."
The more successful you are, the more lucky you get.
The luckier you are. They've got no fucking idea. Sorry, didn't want to say. They have no idea. Only you as an entrepreneur or a successful woman knows what she had to do to get there. But people always say, "Yeah, but if I went to Oxford University, or if I came from a wealthy family, if I went to private school, or if my parents had a family business, or if it's like, no, you have no idea." Every successful person. I remember seeing a documentary about Beyonce because I spend Sundays looking at documentaries. Now that woman puts on how many shows a year? Right,
a lot. Funny, I used it in one of my newsletters.
Dancing. Being fit, eating right, a crew, a leader. No one is successful because it was lucky. They worked for it. And so I have a lot of respect and time for anyone that successfully run a business or started a business.
Well, at least tries, indeed.
You try. How many, you try. And that's it, really. And if you've got the right people around you, you've got the right advice, anyone can run a business. Just have to have an idea and decide I'm going to do it. But no, it's going to be a hard journey.
It is hard.
I mean, like yours. I think what you're doing is amazing. But
thank you.
But you're doing something. You're out of your comfort zone.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I feel about this teeny weeny.
No, don't be daft.
But at the same time, I'm thinking I am actually doing it, and that's probably more than thousands of other people. And God, look, I'm getting all emotional just at the sheer thought of actually doing it. And I'm super proud of that.
I have 3 daughters and a son. And my 3 girls have worked in the family business, but now they've got their own lives, their own partners. But they'll never fail. If they need to earn a living, they know they can earn a living. I just think if I don't have the money, I'm going to make the money.
Yeah.
I think that
we've got a really cool little saying in Hungarian that you could live on the back of an iceberg, which means that you are just totally resourceful. And my dad always says that to me. And it is true. I mean, I came to England 30 years ago without speaking a word of English with 70 quid in my pocket to work as an au pair, not knowing what's going to happen. And then life unfolded and I built it and I'm building it even more now.
And look at you. Your hair is down to your bottom. It's gorgeous. And you're looking amazing and radiant. So, you're one of those people that someone else will say, you are lucky. You're successful. You're wonderful. At the end of the day, I lost my husband 2 years ago, 41 years. I met him when I was 19. And I'm grateful to be alive every day. And I think, and I have a strong faith and life is a gift. And
it is. Every day is a beautiful gift.
And I've been through a lot in my life, a lot with business in particular. But people were there. They were like guardian angels. They just came into my life, gave me a break.
When you're ready, a teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And the teacher could be a new friend, a new mentor, a new business partner, a new somebody.
Absolutely.
And when you're ready to open up to that particular thing, someone will come into your life at exactly the right time.
They will.
And it's so nice to know this and then recognize it when it happens.
If you're open to the universe, you attract energy, don't you?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm attracted to people that are vibrant and interesting and funny.
I'm super happy that you've come into my life and we're sitting here and having a really enlightening, beautiful conversation. And
Well, I admire you. I mean, your journey coming here, not speaking English. So that's a little bit like my mother,
Yeah.
But how amazing. Who else? I mean, we expect everyone in the world to speak English. We don't go anywhere where people don't speak English. But in other countries, English is the language that will open doors in any country.
Except when you go to France.
Yeah, I know. I love France.
No disrespect.
Yeah. So I think that I feel privileged to have lived the life I live in its ups and downs, with my faith, the friends that I've met, the business leaders. I remember I had a really fantastic client who used to, about every couple of years, he'd knock on my door and said, "You still in business?" And I'd say, "Yes."
Okay.
He said, "I got this job. I want you to come and help me." So it was usually, you go into a big corporation, have to, remodel it. And he wanted someone on the outside to help him brand it because you have 100 days to make us stand when you're taking over a big business.
Right.
And I remember thinking, I would love to have you in my humble production meeting, or we have like a company meeting. But I was frightened to ask. And then I thought,
why?
I'm just going to ask him.
Yes.
Well, because I was in my early 30s. I didn't know anyone.
Oh, okay.
And so I asked him if he would come along, and he just said yes. So now I say to people, whatever your business is, look for somebody that you really admire for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be because they do what you do. It's just whatever. Ask them, and they will always say yes. If you ask with sincerity and you ask them very humbly.
Yeah. Good.
And why?
People like to be
They always
noticed.
say yes. They always say. Marley and I gave a masterclass at Exeter University, the MBA marketing. Anyway, so we did it on networking.
Okay.
Because those students have no idea that you were networking when you were a kid.
And networking through school. Yeah.
Through school. School. You're not networking because you want a job. And it's a bit like you get invited to a party when you're 5. Then you invite them to your party.
Yes.
So one thing I did learn from a fantastic organisation called BNI, a stupid early in the morning starts, but that was 25, 30 years ago now.
No, it's still the same.
I know.
Oh, sorry, you.
Yeah. And the one thing that really resonated with me was the concept of givers gain. And I've lived by that.
Okay.
I would like to help you first. And I'd like to think that you might think of me when something appropriate came up. And I always do that. Always ask somebody first. So what do you do? Okay. So how can I help you? What do you need? And then they'll say automatically, so tell me about you.
Yeah.
And then you do. Guys are quite good. You just say, tell me about you. And then you're for about an hour. And then
God,
they
you
say,
asked me that question and you open a tab.
I know.
I'm becoming a lot better at listening as well. And yesterday I was at a training event and I did it really well for the first time, but I just kept asking questions of this lady and let her talk. And she was an older lady, so obviously my ulterior motive was to see if she would be able to come onto the podcast. And she was telling me about her business and what she does, and it was fascinating. And when she felt like she'd run out of words, she then asked, "And what do you do?" I said, "Funny you should ask. I run a podcast called New Business in Later Life." And she's like, "Oh, wow, okay." And then, of course, we had a conversation about that. And yes, potentially she could be a good candidate for the podcast. It was just really quite eye-opening for me that finally I've done a conversation what felt right, that I asked a few questions and listened. Because I'm very much a talker.
You know, and you're doing podcasts and you're interviewing entrepreneurs, and you're doing this one because it's business and later life. But by doing this, you're meeting extraordinary people.
Yeah, like you.
That's
brilliant.
Oh, you're so sweet. But I mean, it's a joy, isn't it?
It
because
is. Oh, my goodness.
everyone got there via a different way. The significant thing was I started on my own, and I was the only person doing this stuff. And then I've always mentored and undergrads and also postgrads, and I've got them into. I've got 100% success rate getting them into jobs. But
into jobs or getting them to start their business?
Into jobs, because they want to go into jobs because they're
enough.
just postgrads. But as part of because I write a schedule, it's a year program.
Right.
But in that year program, they have to do two things. One is they have to design a business as well as what they're doing with me, and the other is they have to volunteer. I say, I'll do this with you, but the promise you give me is that you'll pay it forward, because there'll be another kid, and you have to say yes. You know, so
is it a condition?
Give us gain, give us gain, give us gain. You know, so that's really my philosophy on stuff, for what it's worth.
Beautiful. Can I just loop back to a question that's been rattling around in my head? It's just something that you said at the beginning, actually. It's about the jewellery business. You mentioned a team. So I know that you and your daughter make a team, and of course you are at the forefront and you do the personal contact and the talking to people. But is there a team behind you?
So when Amalia and I started, we decided we wanted to have it in a particular way so that we would support each other, so that things around school weren't an issue. That's why mother-daughter relationships are great. So then we decided, what is it I'm good at, and what is it you're good at? What do I love doing? What do you love doing? All right. So we do everything ourselves. Amalia is the face of the business. Okay. She's gorgeous. She's glamorous. She's bright. She writes all our copy. She does all our marketing. She makes all our videos. She's become a Canva queen as well, which is like brilliant. She is fantastic. And she's a speaker, and she is like the glue. She's the face of it, you know, and it's her time. I mean, my big ambition is to get her on TV, because what we do isn't about jewellery, but it can be about healing. You know, you heal through the process. It can be about divorce. It can be about getting a new start, any episode in your life. So I think she would be an amazing person. So I think that's one of my goals this year is to try and get her on TV. So network. So do you believe in 6 degrees of separation?
Is it that within 6 steps you can connect yourself to
Completely.
the Queen or Pope?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I could, before she died, bless her little heart, I could connect myself to the Queen in 1 step. I had dinner with Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen once. Not a private one, but but I sat next to him through a gala dinner, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
So Amalia and I do everything. So I design everything myself. All right. And Amalia writes everything, and she organises. She does all the planning, and she does the pricing and the spec, etc. Then I have somebody that turns my ideas into super real CAD illustrations. So the client gets to see exactly what they're going to get. All right. There's none of this like, but it's like, this is what you're going to get. And then we make a wax maquette of it. Right. Okay. Without the stones. And then I have a master craftsman jeweler who makes, you know, jewelry for all the top, you know, the garage, the boodles, etc., etc. He is master craftsman. So my CAD developer gets under my skin because he's got to translate my ideas into something that can be made.
Was it a person you knew beforehand,
No.
or you had to find somebody?
Find someone.
Because again, like finding someone who matches your vision can't have been easy.
So the first time I did this was when I was in Kent, and we worked together for 25 years. When I moved, then I found someone in London through my network. And then my master craftsman jeweler, he's fantastic. And again, you have to work with a team that get you, because I get the client, Marley gets a client, but they have to get us because we're the one that's steering
their story.
Yes.
But then again, I
Yes.
suppose because you do the drawings, I would imagine. So you don't just tell the designer, you do some drawings.
Oh no, I draw everything.
Yeah.
I draw everything. But they will be able to put my ideas into something that can
Like
be
a
made.
3D.
That can be made.
Yeah.
You know. So if I'm inspired by a sea anemone, for example, I'll do a drawing. But actually, how do you make that into a real, like, for example, I'm wearing this necklace.
Yes.
And I'm going to make a ring based on this. But it would take a drawing to unpick it, put it together, work with my CAD developer to see if he can put something together that looks as if it could be a ring. You know, so I can't do it on my own. I don't have all the skills, but I can certainly work with someone and say, I want that.
I mean, obviously what helps tremendously that you have done jewellery and design, you understand the basics, you understand how, and you understand the process.
Yes.
The actual making process.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to have faith in the process.
Yeah.
So when we meet clients, we tell them what the process is.
Right.
And then tell them what the investment is that they need to make in order for us to do something for them.
Yes.
And they're investing in themselves. You know.
Yeah. Very, very much so.
You know, yeah. But I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I'm doing something I love. I mean, how many people don't work at things they love?
Again, I don't think you're lucky. It's you chose your
Make your own luck.
vocation. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm older.
So
And,
you got to this position. You created yourself that life where you can do that.
And when I moved down to Devon, I decided to embrace grey. So I have highlights and lowlights because my hair was dark and I'd have to do that every 3 weeks, have it done. And I just thought, Devon, new life, new start, new business. And so it's a new start.
I follow a lady on YouTube. Her tag is 50 Sister. And she's done that. She moved off to Portugal and she doesn't use any chemicals through having an illness. And she often puts it out like, oh, people tell me of why I have grey hair. But the way she styles it is just absolutely brilliant. And she's just so full of life.
Exactly.
And I love following her. She's just brilliant, really inspiring.
You need to be around people.
Embrace yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to be people that make you smile.
But no, but the thing is, my hair is dark and it doesn't suit me.
Okay.
So my blonde locks, they're just sort of whatever, sun-kissed a little bit, and underneath it's not quite so much, so it looks natural. When I'm going completely grey, then I might.
No, you look great. You got good. Yeah. Wonderful. You're very lucky. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
It's great. I think what you're doing is admirable, and I love it because you're out of your comfort zone. You're trying something you've never done before.
No.
You know, and you will be successful. Just think it. And it's the people you meet along the way. 6 degrees of separation. Give us gain.
Would you consider setting up another business?
Would I consider it? I've got a business in my head every day. But my commitment now is to make Irene and Jenny the most fantastic business in the world that do what we do. Because I think it embodies everything that we are about now.
I was going to say that it probably won't be too difficult because it's the only one. But then how do you keep it unique?
Yeah,
and
we're thinking about that. So we have to move it on. And so, and I have mentors, in the jewellery business, that, for example, in my family business days, Michael and Nicholas Wainwright, who are the family behind Boodles, 6 generations. And I just called up Michael and said, I'd love to come and see you. And he looked at what we're doing. He really was really, really encouraging, and then said, okay, but if you're going to make money, you need to think of a way of, and he gave me some tips and things. So we came back, talk to Malia, right, we're going to do a whole new thing because everything we do takes about 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 3 to 6
And
months.
how do you make it sustainable as a business?
That's right. So we had to come up with another idea that we can do, which has the same ethos, but it means it's more accessible for people.
Okay. So you offer different levels, perhaps?
It's more accessible because when I'm meeting a client, I'm finding out about them.
Yeah.
I can't tell you anyway. It's a secret. It's going to be launched later. No.
I find it fascinating that you obviously mentioned a number of times that you do mentoring, you do business mentoring, and you have a mentor as well. And pretty much everybody I
don't have one
to,
mentor. I have a few.
Well, yeah, that as well. I find it fascinating that we are so good at being the outside eye to someone else's business and be able to tell them, oh, if you did this, and this, and this, it'd be so much better. Yet when we look at our own business, we can't quite see through quite like that. So we need the external eye as well.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But yeah, I did read an article recently from someone who outlined about 7 different mentors that we should have in our lives. It really helped me because I'm launching a mentoring business next month. And it sort of really helped me that, oh, this is where I'm going to fit in. So I can actually use that framework.
So I mentor at the moment, about 3 women with children that run businesses.
Okay.
And that's quite different because I have something that I've woven into our lives. We call them non-negotiables because our well-being is non-negotiable, but we have to do it. So when I'm putting together, help them put plans together, we have to determine what are your non-negotiable moments. You know, so for me, Amali picks me up at 8:45 every morning. We go to the local leisure centre. She does weight training and I swim. I don't have any calls or any meetings before 11 a.m. That's our
because
non-negotiable.
You are number one.
That's it.
Yeah,
so
I
when
know what you mean.
And so when I'm mentoring women, so let's talk about non-negotiable. It could be once a week. It could be twice a week. That time when you are just working on you.
I know. And that's exactly what I'm going to preach about. It's my morning routine is my absolute strength because I am number one. And I used to be like not a morning person, to say the least. I now willingly, happily, with a smile, get up at sort of 5:30, 5:45 in the morning to look after myself.
Well, as Mayor Andrew said, if you don't work, nothing works.
Yeah.
Basically, you know.
Yeah.
But women tend to fit things in around their other stuff. And when I'm coaching, or mentoring, I'd say, right, you know, here's the plan that we put together, and this is your non-negotiable, no matter what happens, and fit it in a time that's doable.
Yeah, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
But
find that little pocket of time.
And if you're married, got a husband, well, you can jolly well share
cook.
things,
Yeah.
and they're I think happy to help because very often a man doesn't know what to do that's going to make life easier for their wife or kids or anything, you know. And but once they know you're serious, then they want to help. You know?
And yeah, it's down to communication. My husband is such an absolute sweetheart. Obviously, you can see we were both building our own businesses. But when I said, can we actually share some of the housework? He completely embraced my request. And he's now willingly doing things. And of course, as you said, kind of learning. But yeah, just doing things.
Yeah.
And just letting me, even if it just lets me sit for 10 minutes, it makes a difference to me. That I'm not up and running around and doing this and doing everything around the house. So yeah, it's important, isn't it? But yeah, looking after number one is the number one priority. Totally.
And if you don't think much of yourself, then why would anyone else think much of you?
That is the absolute truth. If you could think of somebody who you would like to see in the seat for New Business in Later Life for me to interview, who would it be?
It would have been Dame Stephanie Shirley, but she's 90 now.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It was a wonderful conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. If you've ever doubted the power of the past, think again. Discover more magic at Irene and Jenny by watching their intro video and sharing their story with someone who loves legacy as much as luxury. Thank you for listening to New Business in Later Life with me, Ildiko Seeley, where we say no to slowing down and yes to starting up. Loved what you've heard? Please share it or screenshot it and tag me on socials. Let's show the world what thriving in later life really looks like and share with a friend who is ready for their next chapter. Please subscribe so you are always in the loop. And if you were ready to stop running on empty and start running on purpose, come join us. All the links are waiting in the show notes, including my guests' contacts, the Uncopreneurs Club, and a few tools and services I personally use in my business to help you thrive in yours. Until next time, refuel, refocus, reinvent.